Welcome back. Today we'll be reading Chapter 5, Lights Off. Summary. The lights in Nightmare's castle suddenly turned off. Had the storm caused an issue, or was Loomis somehow involved? As they were getting ready to train the next day, Pitch had just put on his new shirt when suddenly a weight on his shoulder caught him off guard. He turned his head to see his brother. He then shifted his body around just as Loomis decided to hug him, leaning his skull against his chest. "Worry?" Pitch checked his brother's burning forehead. Loomis seemed exhausted, but not from a mental exhaustion like he had been for a week. Loomis yawned. Tired, was all he managed to get out before his legs gave out beneath him. "Loomis?" The lights went out as Pitch yelled. Not now!" Pitch growled, looking up at the light furiously before his stare became suspicious. As he then looked back down at his brother's unconscious body, he immediately became worried for his brother and quickly picked him up bridal style and laid him down on their bed. Then, before he could even think about what he was doing, he used his shadows to teleport to Nightmare's room, where he paused from his work. "Pitch, is it Luminous?" Nightmare furrowed his bone brow in concern. "Yes, he fainted, Nightmare." Nightmare stood up and pushed in his chair, a thoughtful expression on his features. "Go look after him. I'll get Blue and Dream," Nightmare instructed. "Yes, Nightmare." Before Nightmare left, he ordered Killer, Horror, and Dust to go to the basement to check on the surgical outlet. He knew Dust and Horror would make sure Killer wouldn't get distracted or blow it up this time. Blue had already run to look after Pitch and Luminous once he heard what happened. "Ugh, why do we always get the dirty jobs?" Killer grumbled, kicking a small stone down the crumbly stairs. Dust sighed in agreement, adjusting his gray hood as they trudged down the dark and damp spiraling staircase. "Seems nothing has changed there," Dust chuckled. "True," Horror smirked. When they finally reached the basement, however, the sight that greeted them was far from what anyone expected. "Shit the funk happened here?" Killer yelled, holding his head. "Just look at that," Horror exasperated. "Does Nightmare think we can fix that? It's completely fried." Dust silently leaned closer to inspect the burnt outlet with his flashlight. The outlet had clearly been fried, if the blackened and broken case was anything to go by. It left no question as to the severity of the damage. Tracing his phalanges over the charred scrap of metal, he remembered the lightning crashing down like an angry god, and lights shutting off before coming back on. "I think I know what happened," Dust murmured. "What, we didn't buy a new and better generator, instead stuck with one as old as Nightmare himself?" Killer joked. Dust rolled his eyes. "No," he replied, but he wished that were the case as an unsettling feeling fell into the pit of his non-existent stomach. "You remember the storm that happened over a week ago, right?" Dust asked slowly, trying to get Killer and Horror to use their heads for once. Yeah." Horror rubbed the back of his skull, suddenly feeling uneasy. Yeah, just spit it out already," Killer said, crossing his arms, clearly not giving it any thought. "This has been fried for exactly that long," Dust told them seriously. Horror's eye sockets went blank as Killer uncrossed his arms, his smirk dropping instantly. "But that would mean," Killer paused, and Horror continued, "the only one with that ability is Luminous." "Luminous!" Killer yelled at the same time, running back up the spiral staircase. Luminous slowly blinked open his eyes, only for them to be covered again by his twin embracing him. The lights were out, that was bad, but there were candles. Did he mess up? Luminous thought as he looked around the room for a brief moment before Pitch gained his attention again. "Luminous, don't you ever scare me like that ever again. You need to be more careful." Pitch rushed out with a single shaky breath. I'm sorry, brother. I didn't mean to. What did I do wrong? Loomis didn't remember doing anything wrong. What had I done to upset his brother like this? Again. You didn't do anything wrong, Pitch wanted to clarify first, sensing Loomis's worry. Then the door opened. Luminous, Dream walked in with a relieved smile. Oh, you're awake. I'm so glad. You really had us all worried there. Blue popped up behind Dream with a wide grin. Dream? Luminous gaped as Nightmare, the Murder Time Trio, and Cross all filed in. Dream came to give you more positive magic, while Blue helped Pitch take care of you for most of the time you were out. You were dangerously low, Nightmare explained. Care to explain why? Cross asked seriously, looking over to his previous colleagues, who looked away nervously, before turning back to Luminous. Man, Luminous was getting the dad look from both them and Nightmare. Felt like the one time they all had a family outing and he'd accidentally wandered too far helping an elder with the groceries. Dream had been upset Luminous had wandered off, but proud of his generosity. Yet here, there wasn't any sign of proudness from Dream. There was only worry. This made Luminous shrink guiltily. We already know what you did, Luminous, Dust spoke up. We saw the burnt fuse, Horror explained. The storm happened a week ago, like Dust pointed out earlier. And you're the only Sans here that can turn the power on with your magic, Killer said bluntly. Clearly not happy with what Luminous had done for them. Why didn't you let us handle the outage, or come to us when you started to get tired? Nightmare asked. His emotions told him that he was used to this kind of behavior, but still wore an exasperatedly stern expression. Luminous couldn't look at them. I messed up again, didn't I? Was all he said, barely audible. No, you didn't, Pitch consoled him. You just could have hurt yourself, and that really worried us, he said. Luminous looked up guiltily. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to worry you, he spoke softly. Dream spoke as he walked over. It's alright, Luminous. You aren't in trouble. We just want you to tell us why. As he sat next to them and rubbed Luminous's skull. Okay. Luminous looked up at each of them sadly. I just wanted to help. I thought that Horror needed the electricity to cook. You guys use it to shower, to watch TV, Dust to read, and most of us can't see without some light. I thought I didn't want you all to go without all of that. Not when I could do something about it, like back in Dreamtale. That's why I turned the electricity on with my magic. Why didn't you say anything? You must have known you couldn't sustain it forever, Cross asked. The villagers always expected it, so I figured you also wanted me to provide you with light. Luminous didn't expect there to be silence after he answered. That worried him. Why are you looking at me like that? We could have easily replaced it with a new one. I can't say the same for you. Nightmare's tentacles swished with slight aggravation, properly upset at hearing about the villagers again. What Nightmare means is, using your magic like that was dangerous, and you are irreplaceable, Dream added. Luminous clutched the sheets that covered his legs. I didn't want to be a burden. Everyone looked at him shocked as Luminous cried. You aren't a burden. Pitch clutched Luminous closer in his embrace as Dream rubbed his back soothingly. Cross clenched his fist as his eyes narrowed in thought. Why are you so worried about being a burden? He asked, making Luminous look away. I messed up. I did something horrible. I hurt them and we were kicked out. I wanted to make it up. I'm sorry, But his rambling was gently interrupted by Dream. Shh, you have no need to apologize. You never intended for any of this to happen, and you did not mess up. Sometimes things go wrong despite our best intentions. What's important now is that you recognize your feelings and allow yourself to heal. We're here to support you, and you are not alone in this, Grim soothed. That's right, young Luminous. You are a good kid and all the villagers are fine. There is no need to carry the weight of guilt on your shoulders. Everyone makes mistakes, and what's important is how we move forward and learn from the past. Blue winked. Dust had to grab Blue and pull him back from crowding the bed. Thank you. Luna smiled shyly at their support. Just don't do something so numbskull again, Killer said, before Horror nudged aside. Like you're one to talk. You too, Killer returned. Nightmare sighed but ignored them and continued to speak to Luminous. I will not hear another word about you being a burden. That is a lie, and you are not a burden. So please, just come to us when you have an issue. Promise me, to everyone, that you will say something if something is wrong, no matter how small it may seem. Luminous stared at them in shock. He felt a hand on his, and his gaze slipped to his twins. Please, Pitch pleaded sincerely. Luminous closed his eye sockets and let out a small breath before opening them again with a little smile. Yes, I promise. Okay, for the second half of my video, I will be doing Q&A from my Discord friends. The first question that Dreamy Bunny asked me was, what made you want to make Glassverse? What inspired you? Well, I started out binge watching Undertale comic dubs and reading comics that the fandom has created. That's how my dreams of Glassverse started, and I often daydream while walking. It started with the Sun&Moon brothers and moved on to random AUs, which is how I decided to put them all together in 2 books. I started writing all of this in my journal after my college classes, and I would write until it was dark in the campus library. It's kind of funny actually. I started writing book 1 with Sun&Moon brothers prologue, then wrote half of book 2, went back to finish book 1, and went back to finish book 2. In total, it took me 3 months to write both books. So my main answer to your question is the fandom and my dreams inspired me. I even have recurring dreams that most would consider nightmares, probably, but I think they're interesting, kind of like a drama or anime. I didn't bother writing them though, but they happen to recur in my Glassverse dreams, and suddenly I felt the urge to write them. There were only 3 AUs that these dreams recurred in, and you can probably guess by my little hint of people thinking of them as nightmares. Okay, second question. What is my favorite character in Glassverse? That is a good question. Who is my favorite character? In book 1, I'd say... Well, actually, I like both Pitch and Luminous. I make it mostly about Luminous, but Pitch is my mom's favorite, I'll say. That's what she told me. Luminous struggles a lot in Sun&Moon and more so later in the book, but you'll see him becoming someone more into his own in later books. What I mean is he will become more confident, grow to love himself, particularly through others. He is still very modest and humble. He will also later become somewhat of a dad or a father figure to a certain character that will be introduced in book 4, Looking Through Tinted Glass. I'll tell you some of my other favorites after reading book 2, The Next Generation. Okay, question 3. Who is my favorite character to draw? Honestly, I love redesigning Dream and Nightmare along with Passive and their human forms, Faith and Omen and Kane. Omen and Kane is Nightmare and Faith is Dream. But in the new generation, I would say pitch for book 1 because you won't hear about Blank for a while. But Blank is one of the kids in Glassverse, and they are both the Sands and a Papyrus. Because their Gaster merged them together when they were young, they aren't like Six Bones, who are amalgamated. They actually look like a Sands, but they will grow up to be as tall as Papyrus with sharp features. They have both personalities inside them, and their clothing style is a mix. They like being in cozy clothing, but when they're fighting, they wear battle armor like a Papyrus or Swap Sands. Later, because of ink, their name will be changed to Sap. But yeah, Blank is kind of one of my favorite characters too. I like drawing them. Okay, what is Ink and Air's relationship in Glassverse? This will actually be shown in book 5 or 6, when I introduce the beginning of Two Hells AU, which starts the Hell variants. It starts out with the past when Dream just gets out of stone. Ink and Core both helped with that. Ink also has his soul at this point in time. Yes, he does have soul. Air and Ink are fighting until Air shows 2 AUs, Undertale AU copies, colliding, one which they were fighting on until Air teleported them out. Air, along with his adopted mother, Destiny, were trying to keep the balance of creation and destruction, while Ink unknowingly was destroying the balance on his adopted mother's Fate's command. Not happy about that. Air and Ink make a contract to keep the balance and become friends. Fate was not happy with that, and even threatened to bring young Dream, a child at the time, to Nightmare. Ink casted her out of the Doodle Sphere to protect Dream alongside Corfrisk. However, they couldn't protect Dream forever, and he is taken. Fate sent Ink to his abandoned home AU, where he has a panic attack, but still refuses to create forever again. She takes his soul and continues to threaten to take Dream to Nightmare. And Fate has a physical body, so she can snatch Dream if she wanted to, and she did. Ink gives in, and Air didn't know about any of this, just that Ink lost his soul. And that is how their fight begins again. In the future, however, Ink and Air are a couple, and they have children. PJ, which you should probably ask what his and Air's relationship is like, along with Gradient and Syl. Ink and Dream did have a fight, and the Star Sands broke up, but they get back together pretty soon after. But Ink and Air have a thing going on, and so Ink was spending more time with his family. This is kind of what caused Ink and Dream's tension, but the main reason was something else. Okay, question 5. Larry asks if there will be a fandom children. Simple answer, yes. There's Air and Ink's 3 children, Nightmares and Killer's 4 children, Merciless, Crescent, Dark Moon, and Ink's. Crosses and Dream's 4 children, Faith named after Dream's past life as a human, Lux, Starcross, and Goldia. Those are from the old or first generation, of course. there are some from the mid or second generation that created some of the next generation, or third generation, such as Crescent and Starcross having Pitch and Luminous, while Merciless fell for someone in an AU called Canon AU. And together they had Pitch's and Luminous's cousin Trigger, who is a lot like Killer. Horrors and Lust Child Desire fell for Fury, who is Dust and Blue's child, in which Desire and Fury have Dupeberry. Dupeberry has two cousins named Cleft and Field. Field is Papyrus, while Cleft is the Sands, whose parents are Papyrus and Bloodlust. Sans, also the child of Horror and Lust. The next generation, however, will take a while because they won't meet until the end of Book 2, The Next Generation, or Book 3, Shattered Multiverse, where most of the new AUs are destroyed or where and Sans's, Papyrus's, and Gaster's, who are taken out of Void, are recruited or forced into the Gaster Empire, or they're taken and protected in the Omega timeline, though some decide to join the Sun and Moon squad. Their multiverse war then starts, and relationships are kind of a slow burn. Some are faster than others. I do have all the relationships between the next generation planned out, though. Okay, question 6. Dreamy Bunny also asked if X-Gaster was involved. Not in Book 1. He will be introduced later in Glassverse when they go back to the past. Basically, the X event happened in the first timeline, but because of the orbs and going back and forth between past and future, mainly the fight that happened between time and space caused glitches. Also, the Gaster Empire takes X-Gaster. X-Gaster is weak than Mirror Gaster and Queen Gaster, so he has no other choice but to become their subordinate in the second timeline. Okay, that is it for today. I hope you have a good day, and see you in the next video.
Can I feel your grip tonight? Can't get this off my